Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes in France. Now just a quick word before we get started about French, because I know in French it's Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. In American English, it's Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. English is funny when it comes to French because sometimes we pronounce things correctly and sometimes it's completely off. Like, we don't say Champagne, we say Champagne. We don't say Paris, we say Paris, So, since I am American and speak American English, I'm going to pronounce it that way, which is Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. But I am very aware that it is Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes in French. I would say a majority of the places in this region I can pronounce correctly in English, but we have places like Grenoble, which in English is Grenoble, right? What else? We have Mont Blanc over here. Where's Mont Blanc? It's over here. Mont Blanc. It's hard to see in all of these Alps, which is Mont Blanc. But in English, it's Mont Blanc, right? Things like that. But for the most part, I think it's pretty much pronounced the same in English and French. So that's good. But let's talk more about this geography. Starting over here, these are the Alps, right? The highest, biggest mountain chain in mainland Europe, right? Russia has some good ones, but that's debatable, right? Over European status. But Mont Blanc is the highest peak in the Alps, therefore the highest peak in France. It shares it with Italy, which we've actually already covered on my channel because this is the Aosta Valley. I already covered that region in Italy. So we'll look at the other side of Mont Blanc when we head to the tablet. Important to note that down here, we're going to talk about it in history. You can see this region is called Dauphine. And these are the Dauphine Alps here near Grenoble. Just put a pin in that. We'll talk about that in its history. Now, you think that these might be the most fascinating mountains in this region. And in some respects, they are majestic, tall, snow-covered, perfect for skiing and snow adventures. But there's an even more interesting mountain chain over here in this area. Let me see if I can find some of them. It's very hard to see. Here, let me move the mic so I can lean in closer so that I can find for you. Here's Puy de Sancy right here. Further up, we have, let's see where to go, Puy de Dôme right there. So in this area here, you can see this little chain there. Okay. Let me bring the mic back. This little demarcation here of the mountains. These are fascinating because they are extinct volcanoes. How cool is that? We'll talk about it a bit when I pull up the UNESCO sites, because that's awesome, I think. And we'll take a look at it more on the tablet later. The area also has some very, very famous rivers and lakes. You can see dominating here is the Rhône River. And meeting up here in Lyon, which is the capital city, is the Saône River, which I think is this one. It's hard to see with all these little names here. We'll have the Loire River making up the north border here. Making up the southern border is the Ardèche, which we're also going to talk about in history. And as for lakes, we have Lake Annecy over here. Very popular summertime relaxation lake. And then you can see this massive lake, which in English is Lake Geneva, but in French it's called Lac Léman. So just do with that what you will. You can see the border here between Switzerland and France. Who gets what part of the lake? You can see Geneva's right here. So yes, there's also a border with Switzerland as well as Italy. And let me see. Anything else that I really need to mention other than it's a gorgeous landscape? It's France. It has a gorgeous landscape. If it's not big, tall, snowy mountains, it's a beautiful rolling hill farmland landscape. Or big, bustling cities like Lyon. We have Clermont-Ferrand, we have Saint-Étienne, and we have, I lost it, Vichy up here, which we're going to talk about right now in the UNESCO sites. Let me go grab my tablet. Let's start off with Lyon, the historic site of Lyon. The long history of Lyon, which was founded by the Romans in the 1st century BCE as the capital of the Three Gauls, it has continued to play a major role in Europe's political, cultural, and economic development ever since. It's vividly illustrated by its urban fabric and the many fine historic buildings from all periods. Let's take a look at the pictures here of this absolutely gorgeous old town. You can see a lion there, of course, the symbol of Lyon. Some of the old cathedrals and buildings here. Let's try to find a good picture, if there is one. I guess not. But you can kind of see over here with these cool towers. This is a spiral staircase going up. It is a traboul maison. So what is a traboul? Or in English it would be traboul, right? What is a traboul? It is a secret walkway that goes through these old buildings. You can see a big staircase here making inside a building, right? And we will talk about in history why that is. Stay tuned. Why they built all of these secret networks of tunnels throughout this whole town. I will tell you. Let's talk about Vichy while we're talking about towns. This UNESCO site, as you can see, is also in Austria, Czechia, Germany, the UK, Belgium, and Italy, because it's talking about the great spa towns of Europe. But we're only talking about the one in France, which is Vichy. It says this transnational serial property comprises 11 spa towns located in 7 European countries, and then it lists them all. All of these towns developed around natural mineral water springs. They bear witness to the international European spa culture that developed from the early 18th century to the 1930s, leading to the emergence of grand international resorts that impacted urban typology around ensembles of spa buildings such as baths, Kurhaus, and Kursaal, which I think are just different names in different languages. That looks Dutch, that looks German. They're just buildings and rooms dedicated to therapy. Pump rooms, drinking halls, colonnades, and galleries designed to harness the natural mineral water resources and to allow their practical use for bathing and drinking. Related facilities include gardens, assembly rooms, casinos, theaters, hotels, and villas, as well as spa-specific support infrastructure. These ensembles are all integrated into an overall urban context that includes a carefully managed recreational and therapeutic environment in a picturesque landscape. Together, these sites embody the significant interchange of human values and developments in medicine, science, and balneology, which I guess is the study of bathing. Who knew there would be such a thing? Let's see if I can find pictures of Vichy. Thankfully, these are all labeled, So we can find, here's a big spa establishment, Vichy. The merchandising gallery of the hospital source. I guess the gift shop, right? The Hall of Springs. Let's look at this. It'll load. There we go. Look how very elaborate. And you can see that beautiful Belle Epoque architecture. We'll talk about that in history. What exactly the Belle Epoque was and everything. Do we have any more? I think that's it. Yeah, okay. Let's move on to the Chaîne de Puy, the Manifold tectonic area, which probably, is why Vichy has such, thermal hot springs, right? It's all, there's stuff bubbling under the surface there. Situated in the center of France, the property comprises the long Limagne Fault, the alignments of the Chaîne de Puy volcanoes, and the inverted relief of the Montagne de la Serre. It is an emblematic segment of the West European Rift, created in the aftermath of the formation of the Alps 35 million years ago. The geological features of the property demonstrate how the continental crust cracks, then collapses, allowing deep magma to rise and cause uplifting at the surface. The property is an exceptional illustration of continental breakup or rifting, which is one of the 5 major stages of plate tectonics. Look at these things. Just rows and rows of volcanoes. There's looks like an old Paleolithic site there. But yeah, this is a good photo. Just big old volcanoes just dotting the landscape. Very, very cool. One of those things that you don't notice close up when you back up and look at it from afar. You're like, holy moly. They're all volcanoes and caves and all those kinds of things. Very, very cool. Speaking of caves, let's start off the history section with the decorated cave of Pandak, known as Grotte Chauvet-Pandak in Ardèche. Located in a limestone plateau of the Ardèche River in southern France, the property contains the earliest known and best preserved figurative drawings in the world, dating back as early as the Aurignacian period, which is 30,000 to 32,000 years before present, so 30,000 years ago, making it an exceptional testimony of prehistoric art. The cave was closed off by a rockfall approximately 20,000 years ago and remained sealed until its discovery in 1994, which helped to keep it in pristine condition. Over 1,000 images have so far been inventoried on its walls, combining a variety of anthropomorphic and animal motifs. Of exceptional aesthetic quality, they demonstrate a range of techniques, including the skillful use of shading, combinations of paint and engraving, anatomical precision, three-dimensionality, and movement. They include several dangerous animal species difficult to observe at that time, such as mammoth, bear, cave lion, rhino, bison, and auroch, as well as 4,000 inventoried remains of prehistoric fauna and a variety of human footprints. Let's check this out. Tomorrow's video is going to be all about this cave, so don't worry if there's not a lot of pictures here for us to enjoy. There's not a lot on Google Earth either. That's the museum we're going to look at. But the artwork is just stunning. Let's look at, I think this is my favorite section, because you can see the bison and the horses here and their little herd running in this direction as the rock curves. It's so interesting. So that's where we're going to start our history, in this incredible cave. Isn't that beautiful? That would be beautiful graffiti today, wouldn't it? That's where the history begins. The world's earliest known art. And let me find it real quick. It's one of those sites, I have to move the mic again. so I can see this map. One of those sites that I find, I'm like, okay, I have to remember where it is, and then I immediately forget where it is. I know it's down here in the south because it's near the Ardèche, and it's right here. Vallon-Pontac. Right down there. Okay, let me bring this back. Vallon-Pontac. Right down here on the Ardèche River. And we'll take a much better look at it on Google Earth. So yeah, all the notes that I wrote down was pretty much what it said on the website, about 32,000 years old approximately. We don't know for certain. It was discovered in 1994, and it depicts some really, really interesting animals that are no longer alive or are no longer alive in this area of the world. Lots of rhinos in this cave, which is just so fascinating. So cool. Jumping ahead in history, the Romans came, saw, and conquered the area. They decided to establish a town at the confluence of these two rivers, the Saône and the Rhône, and they called it Lugdunum. It was founded in 43 BCE, and it would become the capital of the province of Gaul, the Roman province of Gaul. Of course, the Roman Empire would rise and fall, and various parts of Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes was absorbed into other kingdoms. Parts of it went to the kingdom of Burgundy, a Frankish kingdom. Some went into the Holy Roman Empire, Germanic kingdom, which would eventually become like the new Western Roman Empire, in a way. And even parts of the south were conquered by the Arabs from Al-Andalus down in Spain as they made their expansion up from North Africa. They ruled the region from 942 to 970. Of course, that's CE because they're Muslim. But the area would be entirely part of France by the 1400s. Now let's talk about this area, the Dauphine region. So here in Grenoble, the lords were known as the Dauphins because they lived in the Dauphine Alps region. And in 1336, the last Dauphin was dying without an heir. And I guess he was broke because he sold his estate to the French crown. And he said, I will sell this to you on the condition that any heirs to the throne will have the title of Dauphin. And I guess they said, okay, because that's how it was throughout the rest of the history of the French monarchy. The Prince of France was known as the Dauphin, which I'd always wondered why it was called that. And why not just say Prince? It was Dauphin, because they had that title. Very similar to like the Prince of Wales over in the UK for the British crown, right? That was the title that the heir has. Jumping to 1572, a very, very important moment in French history was the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre. This was an event during the wars of the Reformation period when Protestantism was spreading like wildfire throughout Western Europe. A new radical idea that we don't have to be governed by the laws of the Catholic Church. And many of the French Protestants were known as Huguenots. There were many different branches of Protestantism throughout Europe. The French ones are known as Huguenots. And in 1572, their persecution led to them being slaughtered over in Paris and in other parts of France, including Lyon. So what happened for that event was that many of the Huguenots were hearing rumors about other Huguenots being slaughtered in Paris in massive numbers, and they were getting very concerned. So the city was like, okay, town meeting, all of the Huguenots come to the main square and we'll tell you about all that's happening. So they went, and it turned out that they were rounded up and imprisoned and then slaughtered. They were massacred. About 500 to 1,000 Huguenots lost their lives during the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre. Completely changed the history of France because it's one of the first times that the international community really came together to be like, no, bad, don't do that, France. And then France had to change its rules to try to incorporate Protestants into their society and culture and religion and all of that. Big turning point in France's history. During the kind of Renaissance period, 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, industry would come to this corner of France. Obviously not in the same way we think about industry today with like factories. It was more mass-produced craftsmanship, a big increase in craft workers, right? Grenoble was known for its glove making like the best gloves in the world. But Lyon was known for its silk making. Silk makers were known as canous, and this is where the trois bouts come in. So in the silk making district of Lyon, they built these corridors going through the buildings called the trois bouts because they could transport the silk without getting it wet if it was raining. So there's all of these winding secret paths all throughout the buildings so that the silk could get to, I assume, the docks at the river so they could be transported without getting wet in case it was raining, which is pretty cool. And remember those because they're going to come back in history. Another important day in French history was June 7th, 1788, here in Grenoble. I didn't really read the reason, but the police were rounding up the nobility, and the nobility was helping run the glove industry, which was making the city flourish, and people did not want, just in general, people being rounded up by the police for whatever reason. There were, this is 1788, tensions are very high in France at the moment. The poor getting poorer, the rich are the richest people on the planet. And people were angry, and a riot broke out that day, known as the Day of the Tiles, where not just people were fighting the soldiers on the ground, but they were going to the roofs and ripping the roof tiles off and throwing them down at the soldiers. This led to France being like, okay, enough is enough, we need to figure this out. Let's call together the Estates General, which was a meeting of the nobility, the clergy, and the miscellaneous, the Third Estate. Which that meeting was what led to the French Revolution, because it was that meeting where the Third Estate said, no more, we're splitting off, we're forming our own government, down with the monarchy. And thus the French Revolution began. So many historians consider that day, the Day of the Tiles, to be what sparked the French Revolution. How fascinating is that? But let's jump ahead in history one more time. Let's head to the 20th century and the Belle Epoque, which was France's glory days. And we're going to talk about Vichy, which I always lose. Where'd it go? Right there. So Vichy, as we know, was a spa town, and it had been a spa town since the time of the Romans. The Romans discovered these spas and went, holy moly, these are very relaxing. And thought, I think these waters have medicinal properties. And for hundreds of years, I guess thousands of years, people would come here to bathe in the water, to drink the water. The royal family, the nobility would come here. In the 1800s, the Bonaparte family would be frequenting here. Basically, the who's who of France would always be spending time at some point in Vichy to relax in these soothing waters and soaking it up and, letting it heal whatever ailed them. And it was during the Belle Epoque, which would be like the 1900s to 1930s. This city blossomed. Resorts were built, hotels were built. The water started to be sold, like kind of mass-produced. If you know L'Oreal makeup, they got their start because they were selling products made with Vichy water. And it thrived, as we saw in that picture, that beautiful green and white architecture, all branching out like little spider webs, very characteristic of the Belle Epoque period. that would very swiftly come to an end in the 1940s. And sadly, that expansion would completely transform Vichy because Nazi Germany invades France. And they needed a hub, not in Paris, to run the country. And they needed a space to house all of these generals and soldiers and people running the new French government controlled by the Nazis. And the nearest space that had enough rooms for them all was Vichy, because they had built all of those hotels and resorts and things. So that is how Vichy France became a thing. The unofficial official government of France during World War II was ran out of Vichy. All because they had enough rooms to house all the people that were running the government. World War II was not kind to a majority of France, and it was not very kind to Lyon, especially the Jewish population of Lyon. The guy in charge of the, I guess, Nazi invasion of Lyon, in English his name is pronounced Klaus Barbie, and he's gone down in history as the Butcher of Lyon. Butcher of Lyon. His story is interesting after the war because he fled to South America, was pursued by Nazi hunters and stuff. But, at the time, he waged terror among the people of Lyon during World War II. However, down here in Grenoble, this city was occupied by the Italians because, of course, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Italy. And the Italians, there were Germans there, but it was ran by the Italians, and they weren't nearly as, brutal as, the SS was. So a huge resistance base was, I guess, born here in Grenoble, and many attacks against the fascist Italians and Nazi Germans came out of Grenoble, and they're pretty unstoppable. And we'll look at the Resistance Museum on Google Earth after. Post-World War II, the big main events was that Grenoble hosted the 1968 Winter Olympics. And the basic formation of the region actually happened in 2016. It used to be Auvergne and Rhône-Alpes. France changed up the whole scheme of things. In 2015, it became effective January 1st, 2016, and created Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. Because I got a lot of comments from people being like, oh, why didn't you talk about which is a region here in Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes? And it's like, I'm trying to go by the new system. Not the old one, not the historic one. We're going by the new system. So we're starting with Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes here in France. I just watched, not just watched, but a few months ago, the film Anatomy of a Fall, which was wonderful, you guys. Check it out if you can. It's mostly in English, although it's set here in France, in Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes, and they filmed it in this region. And I saw it in the credits and went, oh, I have to talk about that place. Good to know. So that is the basic history and geography of this huge region. Let's go take a look at it on Google Earth because we have so much more to see. Let's head over. Here we are in Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes, or Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes. I'm going to start by zooming out so you can see exactly where we are in the world because I'm pretty zoomed in on my world map. Here's France. Let me grab my pencil. Can I see it in the darkness? Where'd it go? I lost it. Okay, never mind. That would help, but oh well. There's France, the rest of Europe. You can see the Iberian Peninsula, the British Isles, the Italian Peninsula, so on and so forth. We can see from above the many valleys created by the many rivers. We can see the big Alps over here. Why don't we start with Mont Blanc? Let's head over there. Surely it's going to pop up and I won't have time for it. Yes. Big old Mont Blanc. Let's put it on the 3D just for fun. Look at this monster. Of course, it means White Mountain in France for very obvious reasons. It means the same thing in Italian, just in Italian. White Mountain. The tallest peak in the Andes and the highest point in Europe. It's pretty generally agreed upon. Beautiful, beautiful mountains. Gorgeous, right? Since we're nearby, let's check out Lake Annecy over here. Big, big vacation spot. In California, when I used to live there, we'd always talk about going to the lake, which by that we meant Lake Tahoe up in the mountains. And I always kind of wonder if other cultures have, the lake that, where'd you go this summer? Oh, we went to the lake. Oh, great. Where'd you go skiing? Oh, we went up to the lake and, went skiing in the north. Oh, of course. We all know what that means. Let me know if anyone out there also has the lake or the river, I guess that you say and everyone automatically knows what you're talking about. But that's Panorama du Lac, the lake panorama here, Lac d'Annecy. Very, very pretty. I think this is mostly the same. Pont des Amours, the love point. You can see they've put all the locks there. The lovers, at least. Because this is France, don't forget. It always has to be devastatingly romantic at all times. Let's head over. Where shall we go next, you guys? I guess you can't really put in your input. I think this was a pretty slideshow. The Chartreuse Mountains here. I love that. That's some good glaciation there in this quaint little pretty town here in its shadow. Absolutely gorgeous mountainous region here. Look at this. It's a fairy tale, isn't it? Most of central France is just absolute magical fairy tale kingdom. Well, not kingdom anymore, but you know what I mean. I think this slideshow was good. The Ardèche Mountains. How pretty. Oh, that's so fascinating. Little cows out there. Beautiful old stone town. Beautiful wildflowers and gardens and meadows and modern art. Fresh fruits growing. A cat dominating the town. The monster cats. Beautiful bridges over the rivers flowing through this rocky, tree-filled terrain. Beautiful, beautiful flowers. It's all so gorgeous here. I guess since we're over in Ardèche, we should go find Chauvet Cave, shouldn't we? Let's see if I can remember where it is. It just always disappears on me. Let's see. How about... Okay, there's the border. I just kind of have to find the river. Oh, there it is. Got it. And here is the actual cave itself. Put it on the 3D. It's in this area here at Le Pontac. It's up in there. There's no... Let me see if it's in my history. Chauvet Cave, yep. Boom. There's the actual cave. And here we can see some rhinos fighting. Isn't that remarkable? And then the museum nearby has exhibits. Here's a woolly mammoth, of course. There's a big ancient European bison, maybe an auroch. The ancient elk that used to live in Europe. The cave lions. Big bears. And of course, little examples of how our ancestors used to live. Here's a woolly rhino, now extinct. Those are the rhinos that you see all over the caves. There's the actual museum for Chauvet Cave because, like it says, did it say it on UNESCO? You cannot go into the actual cave. You can only go in if you are a scientist. It is forbidden because human exposure will damage the rock and will damage the paintings, and stumbling around you might accidentally step on something that's archaeologically important. Let's check out the actual museum. It is over here. And of course they have, examples of what the cave looks like. So you can pretend that you're in the actual cave, seeing the actual art. But also, like I said, tomorrow's video is all about Chauvet Cave. So we're going to see all kinds of beautiful photos from Chauvet and Lascaux as well. And learn about how this cave was discovered and what these drawings could possibly mean. And look at these little figurines that have been found. There's a Venus figure, little horses, this strange man-bear-pig thing. But yeah, look at the leopard and the lion, all found on the cave art. Isn't that remarkable? I guess while we're in the south, we'll head over to Grenoble. Grenoble. You can see there. Gorgeous town. Very, very picturesque here. Isn't that lovely? So, so nice. You can see the old church. All the lovely buildings, but I promised I would show you the Resistance Museum, which is over here in this little museum area. Just kind of pop up. There you go. Museum of the Resistance. And in here we're going to see there's some murals, some artifacts from the history. So this looks like a propaganda poster. There's artwork as well. This looks like the Free French flag, I think. Maybe. I'm not sure. I think. Some prison doors there. Definitely pictures of very prominent people. And some of the devices they used. I think there's a close-up here. Yeah. I was trying to read this carefully. This was a device made to make fake papers. I guess there's some of the papers up there. Very, very important museum. Gas mask there. Some weapons. I want to know what's in there. Let me know if anyone's been to this museum. Definitely a propaganda poster because it says, "Work in Germany." Why be in Paris, or why be in France, when you could be in Germany? The worst possible place you could be at this time of history. But anyway, let's go to Lyon. There's lots to see here in Lyon. Down here you can see the Saône and the Rhône meeting. And they've really been working on developing this district. And they've built this beautiful Museum of the Confluence. A big, beautiful, modern building here with, look at this. What is that? I wonder if that's one of the rhinos. There's a big guy over there. Lots of fossils and some Egyptian stuff. Oh, look at, there's one of those big elks. So cool. I was poking around various museums all throughout Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes trying to find some cool stuff to show you, and all of them had Egyptian stuff. I like this. Only Lyon. Very clever little wordplay there. Some old automobiles as well. Look at these, these look like they belong in Africa, but clearly once upon a time they lived here, and there's a big whale. Wow. Very, very cool museum. I feel like you would go in here and just learn buckets of information, right? The Fourvière is the more historic part of town. As you can see, it's on this giant hill overlooking the city. And dominating it, as you can see, is this big, beautiful cathedral. There's a much older one down here. Let's take a look at that one first. It says it was built in, it doesn't say, it was completed in 1476, but it was started in the 900s. And it's beautiful old Gothic cathedral, right? Very, very pretty. But this one up here is really the star of the show. Once its little name pops up, I can tap on it. That's not it. That's just the chapel. Hello. Oh, there we go. Basilica Notre Dame of Fourvière, which this is just out of this world beautiful. This is Baroque meets Gothic. It's like beauty just vomited all over this church. Every little inch of this church is just beautiful. And of course the outside is just absolutely stunning as well. The inside is just so elaborate, so detailed. I mean, Vatican, eat your heart out. This is so beautiful. And then there's this big tower nearby, which you think, oh, they're copying the Eiffel Tower. But this tower was actually built 3 years before the Eiffel Tower. I imagine it was a radio tower, and I should have looked it up if it was built by Gustave Eiffel, or if Gustave Eiffel was inspired by it. I don't know. But it looks like a very tiny, let's see it over here. It looks like a very tiny Eiffel Tower, doesn't it? It looks like a little wannabe Eiffel Tower. The Tour Métallique de Fourvière. But more interestingly, over here in Fourvière, we have, let me take it off 3D so I can find my way around. We have, I gotta find it. Isn't it pretty? Little garden. I couldn't have lost it. Count all this mountains. Where'd it go? There's a lunet over there. How come when I'm not filming I can find everything I need instantly? There we go. The old Roman ruins of Lugdunum. You can see here. And there are 2 theaters here still intact, and it looks like they're still using it today because they've got little stages set up here, and the slideshow looks like they were going to have a big concert here. Very, very remarkable. There's the old ruins. And here is the Museum of Lugdunum, the Gallo-Roman Museum. There's a view from the theater. And inside, you can see all kinds of artifacts, lots of statues. Old remnants from buildings there with big details. There's big old faces. And beautiful mosaics. Oh my gosh, the mosaics in here. Look, there's, that looks like Diana. The most stunning Roman mosaics I've ever seen. Let's see another one. Look at this. Oh, the detail that's still preserved. All the little horses' legs still intact. And look at this almost dizzying, beautiful spiral pattern. So, so pretty. All those floors, look at this. Just imagine how long it took to put every single little tile just so to make this beautiful little chord pattern. Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. But we're going to head over to the old town, which you can see here. Between the rivers, you can see all these red buildings here. So over here, I'll show you this first. The mural of the Canu. Lyon's very famous for its murals. This is my favorite one because of that forced perspective. This is a wall. This is not a street. This is a wall. This is all painted on. Isn't that beautiful? And it all depicts the lives of the silk makers, past and present, and as you can see, they update it to make it more modern. Very, very cool, isn't it? Look how beautiful. I love the dimensions there. But over here we have the museum here, La Maison des Canu, where we can see how these silk makers worked. Tiny little spools, so many machines to make all of these fabrics. So many bright colors, so many looms. Very, very interesting. Look at all this thread. My goodness. And then it's in here we can find the Traboul, but I have to type it in. I don't think it's saved in my... There we go. Nice little slideshow here of the Traboul. You can see some of these staircases. They're all covered. And, of course, lots of street art all throughout Lyon. You can have street art. There's a Pokestop, probably, if you play Pokemon Go. Let's see. A little plaque there talking about it. There's a little entryway there. I forgot to say during history. I forgot to mention it. I told you to remember during history, and I completely forgot. So the travaux here were very, very important during the Nazi occupation because the resistance fighters would use them to get around the city without being noticed. I forgot to mention this. And, it infuriated the Nazi soldiers to no end because it's just one big maze network. And to know your way around, basically, you have to be a native. And a lot of them are hidden. A lot of them are on private property. So it was very, very important for the resistance fighters, the trouble. Sorry, I forgot to say it. I always forget to say something. This is another beautiful mural, the Fresque de Lyonnais. This is, again, I think it's just a wall. I don't even think it's a real building. Maybe it's, but no, it's all painted on. And every person you see is a famous person from Lyon. Very, very neat. And one of these slideshows has a list of all the names. Let's see, isn't that amazing? Here it is. I tried to pick through. The only name that I recognized was Antoine de Exupéry, because The Little Prince is one of my favorite books of all time. And it gets all lit up for holidays and festivals too. Let's see. There's so much to see in Lyon. Oh, the Musée Lumière. So, if there's one thing I love more than geography, it's film. I love movies, and the Lumière brothers invented movies as we know it today. And they weren't from Lyon, but they operated in Lyon, developing film, developing movies as we know it today, film projectors and the actual film and the process of filming. All that good stuff happened here in Lyon. There's some cameras, and you can watch some of their films, the old film projectors. Isn't that amazing? That would probably be the first place I'd go when I visit Lyon, to be honest. I love film so much. Sorry if you've heard my tummy all through this. But let's finish this with the Le Puy. Let's find some volcanoes to look at. You can kind of see this bumpy, lumpy landscape here. It's a cascade, a waterfall, cascade. There's so much to see over here. We need to find some volcanoes. I should probably just type it in. Let's look up Puy-le-Dôme. How close were we? Oh, we were pretty far off. We were pretty far. Oh, that's right. There's a town called Puy-le-Dôme. We don't want that. We want the actual mountain. We want the actual mountain. But surely we'd be able to find. Here we go. Les Volcans d'Auvergne. Oh, look, you can go parasailing, I guess that's called, to see the volcanoes. There's a big one there. This incredible landscape. This bumpy, lumpy landscape. Look at this fairy tale castle. Oh my gosh. Central France is something else. It's so beautiful. Look at this old town. My goodness. This is a fairy tale, you guys. It's one of those beautiful cascades. Oh, gorgeous. I wanted to see volcanoes, though. Although I love this slideshow, I want to see the volcanoes, right? Oh, pretty. Let's see. Le Monde. Let me see. Oh, here we go. Maybe this will be. Maybe this will be a good one. Isn't this gorgeous, though? Well, Oh, that sounds so bad. I want to see that. I guess the pictures on UNESCO are better than the ones on Google Earth, because then you can really see those big volcano shapes, right? But this is still lovely. Oh, look at the mist. Look at the snow. I love it. Take some cable cars up. But anyway, I suppose we should end it there. I guess that's a sign that, that it's time to end the video. And I stop being able to find site of the pyramid. Excuse me. What pyramid? What pyramid? There's no pyramid here. Okay, well, I mean, it's still a beautiful slideshow. They got their drone ready to go to take pictures. I guess maybe there's some kind of complex up here that you can view the landscape from. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to stop here. I highly, highly encourage you to run around and check out this region for yourself. I guess we should look at Vichy, right? Let's see if we can see some of these beautiful spas. Let's see, there's a beach there. Do you think any of these spas are going to pop up? What's this? There's a museum of the prison tour. Oh, we don't want to see that. Goodness. Let's look at the Napoleon III. Oh my gosh, my cat just sneezed. Sorry. Let's look at the beach. Let's look at the beach. The Celestine Beach. And I'm going to end this. Obviously, my cat just woke up, so it's time to wrap this up before he causes chaos. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this style of content, please consider subscribing. This is an ongoing series on my channel. Next, we're going to hop on down to Portugal. And we're going to see a beach town that you've probably never heard of that had its own very unique ancient industry that's still going on today. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. What was that? Oh, camping. Anyway, I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a good night. Good night.